You are listening to the Push Media Podcast Network.
This is good shit.
And I still haven't even seen Black Panther. I have a hot take for you. I've decided I'm on Mark Zuckerberg's team. How about that? How about that for a plot twist? I'm on Mark's side. I think Mark's the good guy. I think Mark is trying to do what's right against a team, an army of evil, some old, some dumb, some delirious, some pre-Alzheimer's, I guess. I don't know if that's the word for early onset Alzheimer's, which, as it turns out, is not pronounced old-timers, because that's what I thought for an embarrassingly long amount of time. But I'm on Mark's team because I went through a little thought experiment, which is something I like to do when I'm bored. I encourage you to do the same. I put myself in Mark's shoes. I put myself in the flip-flops of Mark Zuckerberg, the flip-flops Justin Timberlake told me to wear, which is something I encourage you to do also. And while I was Mark, it occurred to me, let's imagine what I feel before Facebook starts. So I put myself back at Harvard. And granted, I may have just watched the movie right before I did this. But anyway, I'm at Harvard, and I'm a genius. I'm a kid who is a true blue generational talent, a literal definition of a genius, a virtuoso, a yo-yo marvelous software engineer. Do you know what I'm saying? Holla at Yo-Yo Ma. However, I'm a little socially awkward. I get a little anxious in situations around girls, particularly Asian ones. I don't really know why or what that is. It's not racism, it's kink shaming. So what am I going to do? I have this mind that's so powerful, that's running on all cylinders faster than most brains in the history of brains that have been inside heads are capable of doing. I'm going to look around and I'm going to try and solve problems. That's what the human brain does, if it's working correctly. So in this case, your biggest problem is your inability to woo Asian women. It was funny to use woo there, right? Anyway, ha 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 ha. It's not racism, it's kink shaming. And your ability, your skill, the thing that you can do best is be an engineer, be a hacker, be someone who can put computers to the work that you want to do and make them do shit or whatever. Look, this earth is inhabited by two types of people, ones that can set up printers and ones that can't. So what I did as Mark Zuckerberg, while I'm pretending to be in his flip-flops, was create Facebook. I combined my fear and anxiety of social situations and inability to make friends with the skills that I had as a software engineer, and I created an idea that evolved into a tangible company that ended up costing Hillary Clinton the 2016 U.S. presidential election. Hallelujah, what a country. It's awesome that we can live in a country where something like that can happen, isn't it? That's, regardless of how you feel about, politics, that's just tremendous that something like that could happen. That doesn't make you a little bit proud that some kid who was scared to talk to girls could just spitefully create something that could cost Frazzle Drip her seat in the cabinet or whatever the fuck? I gotta start honing in some of my insults on her and expanding a little bit more. Anyway, back to the story. So Mark Zuckerberg is a once-in-a-lifetime mind, right? And he created this thing that's called Facebook that is essentially this locomotive of an idea that has evolved into a company that is now just an intrinsic way of American life across all generations that can do things like, avoid, manipulate, alter, reflect ideologies, the course of the news that we all hear about. We can literally change elections or people's points of views or laws all over the world through this thing that was just a result of a guy being pissed off because he couldn't bust a nut. And now that solution to his inability to bust said nut has resulted in the U.S. government and Congress knocking at his door, blaming him for insurrections. And what really occurred to me was a mild epiphany where I think it's much safer to have Mark Zuckerberg in charge of Facebook than the government. And then Mark is dealing with people like Francis Hawkwood Hogan out here whistleblowing, being the only whistleblower arguing for more government control over anything, mind you. Dealing with that shit. Having to answer to Congress, who are old idiots or people in the CIA, about how the insurrection's his fault, even though the FBI was getting real-time updates and maybe calling the plays up top like a defensive fucking coordinator. So yeah, I think I'm on Mark's side, actually. I think Mark has made a thing that at this point I'm sure he probably regrets having made. I'm sure he wishes he would have just jerked off that night instead of invent Facebook. But Mark didn't jerk off that fateful evening. He invented Facebook. And it's not going anywhere. It's a train that can't be stopped. This locomotive has been tended to in the caboose with a lot of coal. That was a awful metaphor. Well, it was actually a good metaphor in the beginning that I ended up ruining, even though I thought I was going to kill it with the word caboose, and then I just lost it from there. But Mark is the only person who should be driving this fucking train that can't be stopped, most likely will come off the tracks, but we're still inside of it, so let's not crash it on purpose. Speaking of crashing on purpose, what's up with stocks and shit, right? Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I understand stocks, because I do. I mean, I was in enrichment when I was in elementary school, which has been banned now, I think, or at least they're starting to in New York because we can't have smart kids. But when I was in enrichment, we played something called the stock market game, which I motherfucking won. So I'm 11 years old, making major moves on the street, knowing the insider scoop, like, you know, Easter's coming up. Hey, little kids, dump all your money in Hershey. Meanwhile, I'm putting all my money in Nestle. I put out the bad word that, you know, Hershey's got a bad stock of cacao down from Nicaragua. I short it. I make out. I Bernie Madoff on those little idiots. Now, anyway, I'm Gordon Gekko. That being said, I lost a lot of my au revoir when it came to Wall Street trading because I just gave up on it. I decided that life wasn't for me. I'm just going to do things like podcasting. But for some reason, stocks are at an all-time high at a time when money is apparently useless. People are worried that we're going to start wiping our ass with it because there's less toilet paper than dollar bills. Bitcoin surging, which is good. I'm not against Bitcoin. I'm all for it. But just know whenever Bitcoin or crypto, but particularly Bitcoin, are up or surging or having a good day, it's probably because we are not having a good day. As bad things happen, Bitcoin goes up because, like we all have heard, it's essentially gold. So people are going to clamor for gold or something tangible that they think, which is, yeah, I guess Bitcoin's tangible, sure. So if Bitcoin's up, news is bad. But usually stocks and Bitcoin aren't up because stocks represent this old way of nonsensical money, whereas Bitcoin represents the new way of nonsensical money, obviously, because money's nonsensical. But I don't understand how stocks could be up when people are worried about turkeys for Thanksgiving being available. It's a little suspicious to me, folks, because I don't know how the stocks would be up or down. What's up, what's down, synergy, I'm a clown, fiat currency. So sure, yeah, gas is going to be $5 a gallon. You're just going to have to deal with that when you fill up your car on your way to a Thanksgiving dinner, resenting every second spent driving that car because you spent $5 a gallon for gasoline, only to get to a Thanksgiving dinner that you probably didn't even really want to go to, and then find out there's no turkey. But at least Bitcoin's nearly 70,000, and you own 0.000 go fuck yourself percentage of it. So I hope you like pork. Hamdulillah. Speaking of pork, speaking of swine, I don't dig on swine, but get ready because we're all about to. Or swine digging on us, motherfucker. Because surgeons in New York have successfully attached a kidney grown in a genetically altered pig to a human patient and found that an organ worked normally. This is a scientific breakthrough, said Dr. Dori Segave, a professor of transplant surgery at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. So, a couple of things there. First being, I smoked pot in high school with a kid named Johnny Hopkins, so that's just not a credible source. Who's giving out medical degrees now? Also, this isn't the first time that we heard people are combining humans and animals together. In fact, someone crazy who usually goes on just really one podcast at this point now besides his own, and when he shows up, he always brought the documents. That guy was telling everybody about the fact that, China was combining humans and pigs for the last 18 months. Turns out it's all cool when some Russian guy named Sergey out of the Bronx is combining pig kidneys with humans. And granted, in this article, if I were to continue reading, the human who was lucky enough to receive the kidney was already brain dead. So this story is just a beacon of sunshine and happiness and hope. We got a brain dead man with a pig kidney, and we're supposed to call it a revelatory scientific breakthrough. Suck on my dink. Which I think was, I meant to say suck my dick in Italian. I'm not sure exactly how they say it. I think it's like succo la mink or something like that. I don't know. Chin don, I only want a human kidney. If I ever am in a situation where I need a kidney, you get me a human kidney or it's no kidney at all. I'm fucking embarrassed for you, Doc, that I had to say that. There was a reason I didn't notice the box on the piece of paper before you give me the gas for surgery that said, would you prefer a human pig? A human pig. Whatever, fuck it. I'm not going to finish that. You get the point of what I'm getting at. Only human organs in my organs. I don't know if that makes me an elitist. I'm not really psyched about the fact we could have unlimited kidneys. I think there's something to be said for if your kidneys go bad, your kidneys go bad. Your kidneys were supposed to go bad. Now, I'm not saying medicine shouldn't continue to evolve and we shouldn't try and cure things. But is taking a kidney grown in a fucking pig, is that a scientific breakthrough? Or is that a slap in the face to God? I would argue there's a difference between pigs and humans. I would argue there's a difference between animals and humans. You might be surprised to know there's a lot of humans who would argue the opposite of that. And something all of those people have in common is the fact that they will forever remember today as the day the scientific breakthrough occurred in which they were able to receive organs from pigs and begin their transformation to a barnyard-eaten, trough, sloth-covered swine animal. A cloved, hooved animal. The dirtiest of the dirty. The types of animals we've known for the longest are just not clean. So what I'm getting at is stay clean. Don't be an organ donor. Get that shit off your license. They're going to take your organs and they're going to swap them out with pigs. Eventually, here's what I really think. I think big pig's behind this. Let's blow the cap off that. The ultimate goal is the pigs are really just looking for legs. That's what I'm getting at here. At the end of the day, if the plan goes accordingly, there will be packs of wild, vicious man pigs with strong legs and the rest pig body, but a pig mind, but a human soul, and they will be in control of most major cities. And then we will go into a decades-long war with the pig-legged people. So get ready for that. The pig-legged wars of 2050 are fast approaching. Align with the sides you will align with, because history is written by the winner of that battle, I guess. I don't know. Who knows? The battle hasn't happened yet. I'm not going to be able to sit here and think of the ending yet. You'll just have to experience it with me. But battles are gross and scary and sad and ugly. So you should do everything you can to avoid them, particularly when you know conflicts will happen if you stop participating in them. Take, for example, the Taliban. You remember that? We left Afghanistan in maybe the worst fashion ever. We left Afghanistan maybe worse than we arrived at it, which is saying something. And now the Taliban was like, we're going to be good. We're going to be cool. Don't worry. Mom and dad can go away for the weekend. We're not going to have a party. We're not going to behead the leader of the national volleyball team. We're not going to post that on Facebook. And it's not Mark Zuckerberg's fault for letting that happen because the world is a complicated place. But the Taliban sure as fuck is not seeming friendly. To quote, that's not a word. But to quote the great Clarissa Ward, the Taliban does not seem friendly. Because it is not very friendly to behead a volleyball player. It's not very friendly to say you're going to do something and then not do it. Probably the first thing I said there is a little less friendly than the latter, but I'm all about keeping you on your toes. Also, happy belated Christopher Columbus Day. Or Indigenous Peoples Day. I'm not sure if that's the new Thanksgiving or the new Columbus Day. But, you know, I hope you enjoyed your Columbus Day, the day where we all pretend he was the guy who got to this country first. That's 100% not true. There's fucking Vikings that showed up here in, like, the 900s. And that's why everyone in Minnesota sounds like a retarded Viking. So that's just not true. But an observation I had that I'm going to share because I have a podcast about Columbus Day. I live in Philadelphia, and there is a major street in the city that used to be called Delaware Avenue. And about 5-6 years ago, it was renamed Christopher Columbus Boulevard. And then down the street at Penn's Landing Park, which is, you know, a park that signifies William Penn motherfucking landing here, being the first or second, I don't know, he was the second guy to walk on the moon or America, I don't know, whatever story you're following. But then right down at that park, they built this giant phallic obelisk statue monument thing to Christopher Columbus also. But meanwhile, literally elsewhere in this city, people are flipping shit over a statue of some old mayor who was Italian. I can't think of his name right now, but for those of you who do know it, I'm sure it's bothering the shit out of you that I still haven't. But regardless, it just struck me funny that people hate on Columbus, and don't get me wrong, dude is the recipient of a lot of cred he ain't deserve. Holla. But at the same time, yeah, and also, sure, slaughtered Native Americans, some of which were my people. I'm not going to get into that. But it just seems weird that here in Philadelphia, the first city, for all intents and purposes, I don't give a mother F about Delaware at all. Somehow we're rebranding sections of the city for Columbus, while other parts of the city are up in arms over some wop who used to have an office near City Hall. I don't know if I'm allowed to say wop. I did. Ha 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 ha. Ginzo bitch. I guess it's cool to use slurs against essentially white people because I don't know. I call myself a Mick idiot all the time. It's hilarious. In fact, I wish the word Mick hurt a little bit more when someone said it. But now if I hear it, it just tickles me. It's a little hee 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 whenever someone says Mick, you stupid Mick, you drunk dumb Mick. Hee hee hee. Give me something better. Give me a more painful slur. Like you thought, get real. Yeah, right. Not whose chair is that? Not my chair, not my problem. That's basically what Zuckerberg's saying. Not my Facebook, not my problem. So instead, I'll just rename Facebook. Literally, that's his plan. Facebook is planning. It was just announced. I think Verge had it first. Who cares? Your outlet, your magazine name sounds like a sneaker. But they do have some credibility, and apparently Facebook's just going to change its name. The PR has been so bad, the press has been so shitty, there's been so many problems for Facebook. Their solutions, well, we'll just not call it Facebook. That'll solve it. Can't be mad at Facebook if we're not call it that anymore. That solution does not work to that problem. You know who's tried that before? Gallagher 1 and 2. And Gallagher 2 was Gallagher's brother. He just bought his act, smashed some different watermelons, And then Gallagher caught a second wind, came back, and there was a legal dispute. And the moral of that is you still had to go in front of a judge. Mark, I'm on your side, but I don't think the solution is just call it Facebook 2 and smashing some different fruit. You need a little bit more than that. But you're damn sure the guy who's supposed to be leading the charge, I don't want Frances Hogan to have any more credibility than what already she has. I don't get how a whistleblower who's arguing for more government control is a whistleblower. You are the opposite of a whistleblower. What's the opposite of a whistle? I don't know, a percussion instrument maybe? I'm thinking who knows? I'm not a musician. I'm a fortune teller. I'm a journalist. I'm a guy who hasn't seen Black Panther. So if you have, don't spoil it for me. I'm never going to watch it. It's too painful at this point. If you have cancer, share it with us. Chadwick, Norman. Some people want to help. That was a fucking shame. Well, I brought up cancer. That really kind of deadens the mood. I don't even have it, and I'm like, oh, shit, now I'm sad. Well, I guess for some more upbeat stuff. Turns out Epstein also had a giant ranch in New Mexico. The island where he was the president of Kidfuck Mathematics Island, he also had a second headquarters, a Raven Rock, if you will, out in New Mexico on the border. A border which is currently flooded with children in cages. That hasn't really changed, by the way. Do you remember when everyone gave a shit about that, or that was the problem that you saw on Facebook most frequently, depending on where you aligned politically? Because somehow there's a party in this country that's against children in cages, and a party for it, I guess. Who knows? Well, that hasn't changed at all. In fact, the Biden administration has decided to keep in place essentially the exact same immigration policies that Trump had, which are, of course, pretty much a lot of the same immigration policies that Obama had, which are, of course, the administration that Joe Biden was vice president of, if he knew or remembered that. Time is a flat circle. The earth is not flat, though, to be very clear. To be very clear, Kyrie Irving, get the motherfucking vaccine, son. But Jeffrey Epstein is the tip of the ma-lovin' iceberg. It is the tip of the iceberg. And even that expression's a little historically inaccurate. Sure, an iceberg sunk the Titanic, but do you know who was on the Titanic? A lot of people who were employed by banks. Make of that what you will. And while we're on the topics of banks, I would like to call attention to the fact that the Biden administration is making major moves again, doing things like nominating people to positions that are very, very important, like within the Federal Reserve, like Dr. Saul Omarova, who the Biden administration just nominated to lead the OCC. She was a law professor who I'm not going to call a doctor because we've already gone over, unless you can transfer a pig kidney to a human, you're not a doctor. So any other discipline that you may have studied does not count. Any collection of books on your shelf that you happen to specialize in, a doctor does not make. But the funny thing about this fake doc, Saul Omarova, better call Saul Omarova, I'm sure I'm saying all of her name wrong, is that she, was educated in the USSR, which is Russia. Literally when it was more communist, okay? Picture Russia, picture a more communist Russia, picture a more Russian Russia. That's where Better Call Saul was educated. And now, Sleepy Joe, who's busy enforcing his own immigration laws that he's upset about, is nominating a Soviet motherfucking spy to represent money for people within the Federal Reserve, which is a thing that controls everything. Did an iceberg sink the Titanic? Or was it Saul Omarova? Or however you say her name. It just goes to show you. Money isn't real, but you also have to live like money is very important, but it's not at all. I don't know what the lesson is in that collection of true facts and statements, but they are all nonetheless true facts and statements. But it should be concerning when you have to spend a lot more of this fake thing we call money. I'm talking significantly more, like maybe $5 a gallon on gas versus what we all thought was normal at just under $3. That's only going to continue to go up. We get a lot of that gas, a lot of that oil, from parts of the world like the Middle East, from places like Afghanistan that we just left and decided to allow the Taliban to take control over because they promised they'll be on their best behavior. We took their word for it, and now the captain of the national volleyball team is missing her head. Literally. What's going on? Who's calling these shots? Why is Dr. Saul Omarova getting approved by JoJo to lead up the money department at Fuck All Bank? Why is she saying we should adopt a nationalized digital currency like China and Venezuela? Be the leaders with them. Be on the forefront of something that China and Venezuela is doing. I repeat again, do something that China and Venezuela is doing. No thanks. I could do without. Just like I could do without your pig kidney. Just like I could do without your bullshit history of the world. In 1492, Columbus, fuck you. No, he didn't. He didn't. If he did, why are we all taught that he arrived in the Caribbean, even though we all pronounce it the Caribbean, which is still confusing to every kid in school everywhere? And then that's the end of the story. You know, he arrived at an island, the Caribbean, Jamaica maybe, some shit like that. And then we all credit him with Thanksgiving, as if he landed at fucking Plymouth Rock. He did not. You lying Spaniard. You didn't come here. I don't know if you're a good guy or a bad guy, but you're certainly on the receiving end of a lot of goodwill you ain't earned, Jack. Chris. Columbus. Something there. I don't know. He didn't get here first, folks. Explain to me why there are remnants of the Vikings in Minnesota. Explain to me why there's a Templar Tower in New England, somewhere in like New Hampshire, I think, or something like that. Explain to me why there are all these signs throughout other countries' history in writings of a knowledge of the new world, quote unquote. Dating back to, depending on how much you want to believe, maybe the 1500s, maybe even further back than that. Maybe before Christ was born. Who knows? Not me. But what I do know is a guy named Chris did not get here first. He might have slaughtered some innocent Native Americans, sure. No one's explaining that away. I'm just pointing out the fact it's a little weird that at least at some part of Philadelphia, the first city, we're cool with him. We're actually making more shit named after him. Fucking Indigenous Peoples Day. Meanwhile, we're going to tear down a statue that's completely inconsequential to fucking anything. Although some people are going to die over riots about it because we'll all have seen it on our Facebook feed. Just imagine how much worse it would be if the government was in charge of your Facebook feed. If the people you elected, who forgot they were elected 8 years ago, were making the same immigration policies, were deciding what the narrative should be around all of their decisions, some of which good, most of which blunders. Think about that shit. Think about how the most trivial nonsense that you at least think is stupid ends up being something people die over, riot over, behead people over. All in the interest of spreading a message no one's really sure what it is. And I'm sure even the person committing a particularly heinous act that they think is, perpetuating some message, they probably don't even know what they think they're doing. They're not sure of it. There's fucking sleeper cell assassins walking around with mind control weapons that are affecting Havana syndrome or something. I don't know. That was a lot of words. A lot of them probably accurate. Hopefully not too close to the point where I end up missing parts of my head from my neck. But I'm happy to be here. I'm happy Mark Zuckerberg's in charge of Facebook. I really am. God bless him. God love him. Mark, I'm on your side. I'm Team Mark. I'm team fuck Frances Hogan. Because she's not real. Frances Hogan is Pete Buttigieg's wife. How about that? That's the biggest piece of information I have to offer you in this episode. Not the fact Christopher Columbus didn't discover America. Not the fact Mark Zuckerberg's actually the good guy. Not even the fact that I still haven't even seen Black Panther. That's a crazy thing for me to feel comfortable enough to confess publicly. Do you know how difficult it was to tell people I didn't see Get Out until about 8 months later? There was a minute where if I would have told you I hadn't seen Get Out, I might as well have just explained myself in a KKK robe. But I still haven't seen Black Panther. But the biggest piece of information that I'm mic dropping on your silly little egghead is the fact that Frances Hogan is Pete Buttigieg's wife. I've seen the documents. They're making the pigs gay and human. So do your part. And follow us on Facebook, like and smash that subscribe button. Retweet. Hashtag. I'll see you in Congress.